Welcome to episode 3 in the series of Common Ailments for Women and the Misconceptions Behind Them. Today, we will be discussing tubal ligations and how that affects hormone balance. Now, I know when we go to get a tubal ligation, everything is copacetic. Like, you sign the documentation. Some of us, for me personally, I signed my documentation before I was finished being pregnant because I was ready and I was done, and we'll talk about that in detail. But I signed it. I got the little talk about how I might feel some type of regret. And you know me, if you know me well at all, you know I was cracking jokes. Like regret of what? That my fallopian tubes are gone. Like, I was not about it. As you guys know from the endometriosis episode, I had a very traumatic pregnancy the second time with my daughter. And I did not want to become pregnant again. And so it was very, very critical for me to get a tubal ligation. And for the most part, as far as safety is concerned, tubal ligations are very safe. There aren't very many instances where someone, has a scare or someone dies. And if they do, it's usually because of an underlying condition that causes some type of hemorrhaging or internal bleeding after the fact, or hemorrhaging during the surgery, or anesthesia. It doesn't normally have to do with the actual procedure itself. Now, I do want to say and preface for this video that I am not a medical doctor, therefore I cannot cure, I cannot diagnose, I cannot prescribe medication, and I cannot do surgery. So while I am not an expert in the field of surgery, I am an expert in the field of hormone imbalance. And so what happened was I got my tubal ligation. And as I told you with my first child, my son, I did not have any endometriosis pain or symptoms after becoming pregnant with him. I had pain and problems with Kendall. That's my daughter. I started my period while I was still breastfeeding. My hormones have been out of order or out of whack. That's my favorite phrase, out of whack. They have been out of whack since I started my period while breastfeeding, and I've had to try to balance those and manipulate those on my own to make sure that I could get them where I needed them to be, which I was successful at doing, but it has been an uphill battle and remains so. But something that I really didn't think about in the grand scheme of all of this was the fact that I had a tubal ligation. And so what started to happen for me was I started to talk to other mothers who had had a tubal ligation, or for, AKA getting your tubes tied. And I had mine every which way you could possibly imagine: burned, tied, fried, laid to the side. But I had them burned, I had them cut, and I had them knotted at the ends. And so that there would be no possible way for me to get pregnant unless it was literally some type of miracle. And it was my choice. I chose to do that because I did not want to put myself in a position to have another traumatic pregnancy and possibly lose my life and not be here for my children. So it was a personal choice. Some people get them because they have to. Some people get them because they want to. Some people get them because they're finished having children. No more, no less. So I signed the paperwork in July. There's a law in West Virginia that if you sign them more than 30 days before your birth, you have to sign them again. So I had to sign them again in October. And then I had surgery relatively close to that in November. It was around my birthday, I believe. And so I didn't have a lot of downtime. I was fine. I had a little bit of cramping, but other than that, the incision, you can't even tell I had it done. And I thought I was fine. So I started to talk to a lot of other moms that were getting tubal ligations, and they were all talking about the same thing, like terrible periods, mood swings, and people, they go on Google, they start to self-diagnose, and they say things like, I have PMDD because the mood swings are so bad, or, I have this, I have that. And while those things may be true, what I want to draw your attention to is the fact that you're getting a tubal ligation. And if you haven't had one and you're contemplating it, I think this video is going to be very, very, very good for you, very beneficial, just so you can make an informed decision. And while I will say this again, tubal ligations are normally safe. The actual procedure itself isn't the issue. It's what happens to you after the procedure that gives us a problem. And so what I want you to think about is the fact that you are altering your body's ability to not only produce hormones the normal way, you're also altering your body's ability to produce children, and you're also altering the menstrual cycle. Because you're supposed to have an egg that is released, and then that egg is supposed to go down the fallopian tube. The egg is then supposed to go to the uterus. And if it is in fact in the fallopian tube and gets fertilized, it will then travel down to the uterus and implant like it's supposed to. If not, it'll travel down, go away. We're good. No pregnancy. In case you didn't know how pregnancy works on the scientific level. And so what happens is when you start to alter the chemical things that happen on a cellular level in the body that are directly affecting the hormones, there is no way around seeing a difference in the way that your body works. And for every single woman that's out there that has a menstrual cycle, this could potentially be an issue for you. And there are a lot of people out there who have gotten tubal ligations and have started to realize, wait a minute, I haven't been the same since. And this never crossed my mind. Even with what I do for a living, this never crossed my mind. It never even occurred to me that this is what I was doing, because this is the typical practice for women when you don't want to have children anymore. I knew that I could not be on hormonal birth control because that's why I created Divine Woman. It jacked me up so bad. I have not been on hormonal birth control for over 12 years. I just can't tolerate it. I didn't want to be at this point in my life. I'm on the downhill slope to 40. I did not want to be worried about the other prophylactics with my partner. We've been together for almost a decade. So I was not trying to use condoms. I was not trying to use a diaphragm because that was never an option for me anyway. I don't like those. I did not want to use all of the things that are out there, spermicides, whatever, what have you. I didn't want to insert something else into the body that was going to cause some type of problem with either a bacterial overgrowth or some type of infection or changing my hormones, regular patterns. You get it. And this is how a lot of women feel because they're at a point in their life where they, especially if you're over here at the Wellness Focal Point, you have reached holistic medicine and functional medicine, and there are certain things you don't want to do to your body anymore. And so a tubal ligation seemed like the cleanest way and the most efficient way to accomplish what I was trying to accomplish. Like many women out there, I got the tubal, never once thought for 1 second that I would be altering the normal pattern of my hormone function and hormone regulation. And so you have to understand that when you snip that fallopian tube, egg isn't going anywhere. And in this case, if you're burned and tied at the end so it cannot get out, your eggs can't go anywhere. You now have a gap in between your fallopian tube and the other side that leads down to your uterus. Let's think about this. Let's be smart about this. How could you not alter the normal function of hormones by cutting that fallopian tube? That tube is needed for the entire menstrual cycle to complete and for it to regulate your hormones and what is going on inside your body. So a lot of women that are my age that have had tubal ligations have what we call perimenopausal. Not have, but you are. Perimenopausal. And what happens is lots of times you will find yourself with a lot of the symptoms that are exactly the same as menopause. You have mood swings. You already have hot flashes. You cannot stand being hot. Hormones are not regulated. You may even see a slew of other things like bacterial vaginosis, recurrent yeast infections, recurrent UTIs. On video number 4, which is our last video next Wednesday, we will talk about bacterial vaginosis and various other things. So we'll go into detail about that. Just wanted to let you know that that's on the menu for what we're going to talk about a little bit today, but not in detail. You will also see possibly more heavy bleeding. If you have things like PCOS and endometriosis, those symptoms are ramped up. You feel miserable, and you're literally sitting there going, how did I get here? How did this happen to me? I don't understand. And then that first thing you do is you start looking at your family tree. Was anybody perimenopausal before? Was anybody having these problems before? And I'll tell you what, I'll go back to my own family tree. My mother, tubal ligation, 33 years old, perimenopausal. Tubal ligation, 31 years old, perimenopausal. And then I started talking to friends. And then I started seeing, because we all know how ads work on social media and the algorithm. I started researching this. And of course, this started popping up on TikTok. This started popping up on Instagram. It started popping up in conversations with my friends because I wanted to know how they were dealing with this. And it was across the board the exact same symptoms. 30-something, tubal ligation, perimenopausal. And now, while those symptoms did vary in severity between everyone, the basis for this was still there. And so while this started out as a theory for me, the more information that I started to garner based on how the body works, how the reproductive system works in females, endometriosis, PCOS, heavy uterine bleeding. We'll even take it all the way to cervical cancer, lesions on the cervix, fibroids, ovarian issues, because I also had ovarian cysts when I was younger. I started looking at all these, and then all of a sudden it was like an aha moment. And I was like, you know what? Tubal ligations are altering what's going on within the body. And it's not even discussed. And the thing that I will give westernized medicine is we don't talk about hormone imbalance either. It's not like we go to the OBGYN and that is a discussion unless you are so perimenopausal that you're hanging on by a thread and almost in menopausal really early, or you've gone through menopause and now they want to place you in hormone therapy, or you have such a difficult time with your estrogen dominance that it is showing up on blood tests, it is showing up on blood work, and it's wreaking havoc in your life. And so now we have to go on hormone therapy. Then we will have that discussion. But nobody's talking about how hormone imbalance affects all the other systems of the body. If hormones are imbalanced, and yes, it can be any hormone, but I work specifically with female reproductive hormones. If those hormones are not functioning properly, you're going to see a slew of other problems that go on inside other systems in the body. So this could be your brain and your nervous system. This could be your kidneys. This could be your liver. This could be your spleen activity. This could be your digestive activity, because one of the number one hormones that's linked to things like estrogen and progesterone and testosterone is ghrelin. That is the hormone in your digestive system and in your body that tells you whether or not you're full, lets you know when it's time to eat, will give you the stomach growls. And no one is piecing this together. I guess that's why I'm here. I guess that's why I was made, because I'm going to piece it together for you. And so tubals, again, while safe, can cause a plethora of other issues. So if you're someone who maybe had mild endometriosis, mild PCOS, mild uterine bleeding during a menstrual cycle, and now you've had a tubal and all of a sudden that's changed and it's super heavy and you're bleeding through a Super Plus tampon every 2 hours, or now you've got cramps so bad that you can't function and you're nauseous and you can't get out of bed. Or let's just roll around back to those perimenopausal symptoms where you've got hot flashes and everybody in your house is freezing and you're like, oh yes, it feels like a freezer. That's fabulous. That's exactly where I need it. Tubal. It's because of the tubal. And so I'd love to tell you that this is something that we can fix and that reverse, but we can't. We've had the tubal. Tubals can be reversed, but if you've been snipped in the middle and there's a gap, you cannot replace that. And so, no, we can't get our ability to have children back. We probably can't change the hormone imbalance on its own, but we can supplement, change the way we eat, change how we're sleeping, change our amount of self-care, and deal with our traumas in order to circumvent the hormonal imbalance. Because at the end of the day, the tubal was the procedure. The hormone imbalance is the root cause, and the hormone imbalance is what is causing everything else. So tubal's the procedure, hormonal imbalance is what has happened after the procedure, and that is the root cause, and the hormonal imbalance is then causing the symptoms. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing the hormonal imbalance. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing the symptoms. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing the symptoms. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing the symptoms. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing the symptoms. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing the symptoms. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing the symptoms. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing the symptoms. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing the symptoms. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing the symptoms. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing the symptoms. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing the symptoms. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing the symptoms. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing the symptoms. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing the symptoms. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing the symptoms. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing the symptoms. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing the symptoms. And the hormonal imbalance is then causing that we are seeing, regardless of what those symptoms are, as long as they are in the realm of hormonal imbalance. And so, just to break that down for you a little bit further, what hormone imbalance looks like is simple, and sometimes we overlook it because it is so simple. But it could be thyroid issues. You might not be someone with endo or PCOS. You might not be someone that has heavy bleeding. Maybe you don't bleed anymore at all. But we have thyroid issues. We have diabetes. We have Hashimoto's. Okay? So look at those symptoms. And then we look at what hormone imbalance is, and we look at how many endocrine disruptors we see on a daily basis and that we are exposed to on a daily basis. And then let's look at the amount of things that we are exposed to that include estrogen on a daily basis. If we are still smoking cigarettes, I don't have enough information on vapes yet. I'll be very honest with you. I am a vape smoker because I didn't want to smoke cigarettes anymore. They were bad for me. I didn't want to get blood clots, and I wasn't quite ready to give up my fixation on nicotine yet. I feel like everybody has a vice. That's mine. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I don't party. I got all that out of my system in my early 20s, and so I don't do that anymore. So my vice is smoking a vape. But I don't have enough research on vapes to tell you how that affects you. But cigarettes themselves, yes, not good for somebody in estrogen dominance. Caffeine, lots of coffee, lots of dark sodas, not good for someone in estrogen dominance. Dairy, not good for someone in estrogen dominance. And that's the other thing. When you cut the tube, and so we talk about estrogen dominance a lot over here. When you cut the tube, you're jacking your estrogen up because it's trying to overcompensate for the fact that the menstrual cycle and the hormonal cycle isn't happening the way that it's supposed to. So now your estrogen goes through the roof because you've had this tubal cut the line from your fallopian tube and your ovaries to your uterus. And now we are looking at hormonal imbalance in its full impact and how it is causing these issues. So I don't want you guys to be afraid of tubals. I just want you to understand how to better support yourself in the event that you're going to get a tubal ligation, or if you've had one and now we need to beef up your support in hormones. We need to bring your estrogen down. We need to bring your progesterone up. We need to get you on an anti-inflammatory protocol so that when you're eating, you aren't aggravating this. And we need to get you away from estrogen exposure as much as possible. So we need to pull back on the dairy, pull back on the caffeine. We need to detox the kidneys. And that can be done with lots of herbal remedies. I love red raspberry leaf and dandelion root. Those are two of my favorites for detoxing the kidney. You can have dandelion root in a lot of different ways. Easiest way is a tincture because you get it out of the way. 10 drops, we're done because it's very bitter. You can drink it in a tea. It can replace coffee because it can give you an energy boost much like caffeine does. You can eat the plant. You can actually take the leaves and fry them up or make them like collard greens. So there's a lot of different options. Dandelion root, dandelion is great for kidney detox. Red raspberry leaf has an extra added effect, I believe. It helps detox the kidneys and get you out of estrogen dominance, but it also tones uterine tissue as well as all of that female area. And it helps with anyone that has, it can help with prolapsed bladders. It can also help with, like I said, toning of the uterine tissue and the walls. And so if you're someone that is doing pelvic floor therapy, this is a great supplement to pair with that because it will help you to do that more efficiently and also a little bit more quickly. Herbs are always a great way to go. But those are my key components when we are trying to assist with hormone imbalance. So we're going to want to, again, anti-inflammatory protocol for nutrition. We're going to want to add in supplements that detox the kidneys. We're going to want to add in a lot of things that will bring the estrogen down. DIM13C, you can Google it. If you do have a full script account with me, so if you can, I can put this in the comments as a link. You can sign up for my dispensary. Even if you never order anything, you can still go in and search the supplements and you can read all of the information about them. But DIM13C, that is one of the key supplements that we take in my program, Divine Woman. It is a naturally occurring substance in the body that we normally don't have enough of or don't get enough of. And so this helps jumpstart that and ramp that up. Another good one is rhodiola. It's a very good adrenal support, and it helps to detox the kidneys as well. Something else that we do along with the DIM13C is Vitex or chestberry. It's very good for, again, detoxing the kidneys, lowering the estrogen. And then if you're constantly exposed to estrogen exposure, or xenoestrogen exposure, you can certainly use these to help with that. So I just want you to be aware. I do not want to send anyone out there into the world of tubal ligation, and I don't want you to think that you're going to get this and then your life is going to fall apart, because you're not. The procedure, you're going to be fine. But there are things to watch for. If you start to see mood swings, hot flashes, fatigue, different things of that nature, those are not things that westernized medicine is going to worry about, because I think every mom in the world is fatigued. Even if you're not a mom, if you've got hormone imbalance, you're tired all the time. This is something that we see in society with women all the time. We're tired because we're always taking on too much stuff. We're always trying to do, and naturally nurture. And sometimes when you don't have kids, you do that even more, because you're still looking for a place to put the nurturing qualities about yourself. You're trying to find a place to put those and use those, because it's a part of who you are, which is totally fine. But we have to kind of balance what we're doing both in the body, the mind, with our spiritual practices, as well as our menstrual cycle. One of the things that I teach on is that women are sacred. And we've been made to believe that menstrual cycles are dirty and that we're gross. It's our unclean time. And it's actually a very invigorating time. It's the time of the month when you should know you should be resting. We shouldn't be doing any extra things. You should be taking extra time for extra self-care during those times. If you need to lay down, lay down. If you're tired, sleep a bit more, because that's the thing with hormones. When your hormones are ramped all the way up and it's time for you to have your period, you're going to be more tired, because we've ramped the hormones all the way up and now they bottom out. Of course, you're going to be tired. And so we have to find ways to support those cycles so that we feel better and understand that during the time of a menstrual cycle and during the time of that whole month or that 28-day period where you are either ramping up, getting ready, or on the period, or coming back down and hormones are starting to regulate, that we're able to support through all 4 phases of that cycle. The period doesn't get enough attention. I'm definitely period positive, and women really need to understand how sacred we are and just how amazing our bodies are and what is happening when we are having our period. There is a spiritual component to this. There is a clinical component to this. There is an overall time of reflection that goes with this. It's a time where we are, in the most powerful within womanhood is during the time that we're actually bleeding. And so I really want to help you understand just how important it is to take care of yourself and support yourself during that time. Periods don't go away with a tubal ligation. So we not only want to support for hormone imbalance in this instance, but we also want to support for period power as well. On our next video, the last one next week, I'm actually going to have products, and I'll do a little show and tell with you of some of my favorite things that I love to use throughout the month to help me be my best me, how I get my skin to glow, and how I don't try not to spaz on my children, because I am a type A personality. I suffer from perfectionism, which I have worked on greatly in the last 3 years to help me just calm down and realize that some shit just isn't my problem. And it doesn't involve me, and it's not part of my big picture. So you gotta go. And that's a large part of it too with the menstrual cycle. But with tubals, you are going to experience some hormone imbalance. There's no way around it. I'm a firm believer in that. I'm sure there's plenty of people that would tell you that that is incorrect. There's probably a lot of people, especially medical doctors, that would not agree with me, and we can just agree to disagree. I don't slight them. I don't pass them by. I do not say that their judgment isn't correct. Because again, if your appendix is about to rupture, you need to go to the hospital and you need to have a surgery now. Let's not be silly with this. If you need medical intervention, you need medical intervention. But how many things do we see on a daily basis in our lives that we could fix at home with herbal medicine, supplementation, changing what we're eating, getting some movement in of some type, and really working on our mental, our mind, and our spiritual practices. Um, it's much easier to go get a pill. It's much easier to go and have somebody tell you, take this, do that, you'll be fine, than it is to do the work. But I work with a very special group of people that want to do the work. And when you invest that type of time, that type of money, and that type of thoughtfulness into yourself, the return of your investment is so much greater. And it's your body and it's your life. You only have one, and we have to do our best job to take care of it. So, once again, do not be afraid of tubal ligations if you are faced with this decision in your life. If it is the best decision for you, that is the best decision for you. But I am here for you if you need assistance on how to support your body after the tubal. And it would be really great to have that conversation before you have the surgery, if possible. If you've already had one, again, I'm here for support after the fact. And so I'd be more than happy to do a discovery call with you to talk a little bit about what you have going on. Free consultation that I do with everyone. If you're wanting to know if we can work together and my programs or one-on-one coaching will help you. Or also, if you really just need to kind of bounce your ideas off of someone because you know what's going on with your body and you're really looking to have someone assist you with that. So again, don't be afraid of tubals. Normal part of life, simple medical procedure, but we want to worry about how we're going to support the body after we have the tubal. Because once you snap that fallopian tube, you're interrupting the normal hormonal cycle that happens inside the body and most likely interrupting and diverting your menstrual cycle to do something else. So that is the information that I have for you today. Thanks for joining us. If you didn't catch it all, catch us on the replay.